Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Michael Ball. Today we're talking about senior housing. Please welcome my next guest. It's Beth Mace. She's Chief Economist and Director of Capital Markets Outreach with NIC, the National Investment Center for Seniors Housing and Care. Beth, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, hello, Michael. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show. And, the senior housing market has certainly grown. I think institutional investors have shown a lot more interest than they have in the past. Just how big is this senior housing market? And for a listener that may not be all that familiar with it, what are the kind of various property types you see?
Well, we define seniors housing as sort of three areas. One would be assisted living, which would be housing provided to seniors who require some type of need with activities of daily living. So they might need help getting dressed, or they might need help with medicine, that kind of thing. They might not be completely ambulatory, so we might need wheelchairs. Included in that would be what I would call memory care. Those would be people who have Alzheimer's or memory issues, so that's a more intensive service category. Then the next most intensive service category really would be skilled nursing, and that's more a traditional nursing home setting. And then the least intensive really is what we would call independent living. And independent living properties typically are those that provide hospitality, socialization. They might provide a van to go shopping to the mall, and you usually have a meal, 1 or 2 meals a day. And those are typically those three categories: independent living, assisted living, memory care, and then skilled nursing are what we consider when we talk about assisted living in general. In terms of the size of the market, in terms of the unit count, there's about 3 million units in the U.S. In aggregate, and about of that 3 million, about half of that would be skilled nursing, and then the rest of that would be independent living and assisted living. And in terms of market cap, we're looking at a sector that's probably about a $300 billion sector. And just for purposes of comparison, the apartment sector would be about 5 times as big as that, about $1.5 billion, or $1.5 trillion actually.
Okay.
So it's a big sector, it's a growing sector, and it's got a lot of institutional investor interest right now, and that's adding to the size of the sector.
Right, so it's a lot bigger than I think, and a lot of people think, and it should grow, right? I mean, with all the baby boomers coming of age in the next decade, what do you expect moving forward as far as demographics and the impact on this sector?
Well, demographics are certainly really important, and we can see that just from the sheer sort of birth rates of what we saw. Today, the typical resident is about 80 years old, and that would put that person, they were born in 1935 during the Great Depression. And just for perspective, that, because I think it's really important, because seniors housing is a very personal and care-intensive sector. So we're finding that more and more it's important to really understand your resident. So for the residents that we have today, there was someone who was born in 1935. That was during the Great Depression. That was when the unemployment rate was 20%. The average cost of a new house was about $3,000. A loaf of bread was 8 cents. When they were 20, consumerism was just taking off, with 7 of 10 families owning a car. The first McDonald's opened when these people were 20 years old. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, because that shift in the generations of the types of people that are living in seniors housing to a generation that's a little more demanding, more consumer-oriented. And as that's happening, it's changing the type of product offerings that are being requested from residents as they move into seniors housing. In terms of the sheer numbers, today there are about 20 million U.S. residents that are 75 and older. That represents about 6% of the U.S. population. Now, that's going to grow significantly as the baby boomers age. So within 10 years, those 20 million residents are going to swell to 28 million.
Wow.
And that's going to represent about 8% of the U.S. population. So there's a big growth coming. It hasn't happened yet because the first baby boomer doesn't turn 80 until 2026. So that's still a number of years away, but it's definitely emerging, and we're seeing much faster growth in that 75-plus cohort than we are in the overall general population.
Yeah, and that's really interesting when you talk about the average resident now being 80 and being having the experience of the Great Depression, because those people, they were kind of affected by that for a lifetime, right? A lot more thrifty, and then like you said, you get the people more that came along later, and we're all consumers. We all want things now, right? So that's got to be a lot of changes in these properties.
Well, that's exactly right. And we're starting to see that the influence of the baby boomer isn't so much that they're the residents, but they're the children of the current residents. So they're coming in, and we know that the baby boomers tend to be a generation that, cause change, and they're fussier and they're more demanding. So we're seeing the baby boomer influence coming in and demanding more services or more care, or different room arrangements and things like that for their parents. And operators are responding to that and actually gearing up and getting ready to be able to address the sort of the more demanding and fussier baby boomer that's coming. So this is almost the interim period of operators getting ready for the next big wave of baby boomers and all the demands that are going to come from that cohort.
And are these newer residents more active?
Absolutely. Some of the residents certainly are more active. There's more services oriented towards that. There's more exercise classes. There's more rehab classes that are being offered to residents as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new supply. I mean, with these baby boomers coming, there's I guess there's going to be a lot of new supply that has to be created. And give us some perspective on supply. How has that been trending lately?
Well, I totally agree that supply is going to grow just in order to meet the growth that we're seeing in demand. During the recession, there was a significant slowdown in new product being brought into the market. And in the last few years, we're starting to see some uptick in supply. But it's targeted right now to specific geographies. Not every place is seeing new products coming into the market. Texas, for example, is seeing a lot of new supply coming into that market right now. And it's yet to be seen because it's still getting the data. In fact, the NIC data for the second quarter will be released later on today at 4:15. And we'll get a better window into how the second quarter data has performed. But in general, what we're seeing is that there is supply in some pockets of the country, and generally up to now, the demand has been able to meet that supply, and we'll have to wait to see if that trend can continue.
Okay. And what might surprise people that they might see that these customers are demanding and that's in the new properties that are being built today?
Well, I think we're starting to see a shift in some operators' models. We're moving, historically, seniors housing has been more of a hospitality model, providing people with services that they may require from a point of view of eating and socialization and moving around and getting around to entertainment, that type of thing. And some operators now are starting to shift to what I would call a medical model. And the medical model would be more that you take care of people in terms of nursing services that they may require, and you'll take care of those people to end of life. And we're seeing that sort of a bigger broad trend is really the changes in healthcare and the changes in sort of post-acute care, and there's a post-acute continuum that's starting to occur. And that would be a relationship that hospitals are building with skilled nursing facilities, and skilled nursing facilities are building with assisted living and independent living operators. So there's going to be more synergies and more connections between those types of institutions. And as that happens, you're going to see some changes in terms of what customers are demanding and in terms of how operators are responding to that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So hopefully, if you're an operator, you pick up a customer early in the stage and you're with them for life. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. We'll have more on senior housing. We'll have more from Beth Mace, the Chief Economist with NIC. Stay with us. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you in part by RealNex, providing a comprehensive suite of powerful commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low cost. Visit realnex.com. That's REALNEX. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Today we're talking about senior housing. My guest is Beth Mace. She's a chief economist with the National Investment Center for Seniors Housing and Care. And Beth, we're talking about before the break some of the changes in the demographics of the patients and how that's changing the sector and the industry for the providers and the investors in these properties. And one of the things that's got to impact it is new technology, right? How is new technology impacting this sector?
Yeah, Michael, this is a really interesting area. Technological innovation is definitely emerging as a significant influencer in seniors housing, as well as in all aspects of the sector. So, for example, from an operations point of view, you're seeing technology in terms of lead generation. Lead generation is being delivered over the internet, IT systems, and big data that are allowing senior management companies to really observe real-time changes in the day-to-day performance and operating systems. We're seeing remote monitoring of residents, and that's helping to generate staff efficiencies. So that's just from an operational point of view. Then from a health and wellness perspective, we're seeing telehealth and virtual care systems. And these have the potential to reduce healthcare costs and to improve healthcare coverage by allowing instant video conferencing, for example, at call centers with live doctors. We're seeing smartphones and appliances, remote sensors. Increasingly, you're seeing handheld devices that have medical applications on that, some type of mobile personalized connectivity applications, so that you're allowing people to sort of age in place a little bit better and give them independence and some sort of virtual socialization. And I think as we really see these technologies get tested and winners and losers emerge, that the operational side, the real estate side, the social side, the medical aspect side of the sector is going to be forever changed. And there's a lot of really interesting groups that are developing right now that are, out in Silicon Valley that are looking at technology and then looking specifically at how they can take that technology and apply it just to seniors housing and how they can improve on the operations side, on the quality of life. I've seen technologies, for example, that for a carpet, you might have some type of a monitor in a carpet that is tracking sort of the gaits or the steps of an individual, and that changes. That could be an indication that that person is going to be less stable on their feet and could fall.
Wow.
And falls are a huge risk for the sector. Or I've seen something like an airbag. Think about a belt that you wear that actually has an airbag on it.
Wow.
And as you went to slip, there would be a monitor that might go off, and that could brace or prevent the fall from being as harsh. So these are a lot of ideas that are being bandied about in the industry, and we'll see how it all plays out, but it's certainly a really exciting time, I think, for the sector. And as technology improves efficiencies, it's going to really help the labor, create efficiencies for labor and allow the sector is very personal and very service-oriented. If you can free up labor to do other things, that would be a good thing in the end.
Right, it sure is. Make it safer, and this surge of technology has got to be fantastic for the residents and the providers. And a lot of our listeners are investors. And where are some opportunities, Beth, that they might consider in the senior housing market?
I think there's opportunities throughout the whole spectrum of what I was talking about for care. I think, again, if you can sort of think of an arrow going from left to right, the least service intensive would be on the left part of the arrow, and those would be independent living. And then as you move to the right, that would be more service intensive, so assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, and hospitals. And as I indicated, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for just the sheer demographics that are coming along to push us along the demand curve for seniors housing. You're going to see higher penetration rates as seniors housing becomes just more of a natural part of the life cycle for people and where they live. And I think you're also seeing now cost pressures from hospitals that are pushing us down from a more service-intensive institution into a less service-intensive. So hospitals to skilled nursing, into assisted living and independent living. And because of the cost constraints, as you move from sort of right to left, from a more intensive to less, it becomes more cost-effective. So I think of the seniors housing as a sweet spot that's taking advantage really of the demand factors that we talked about, as well as in the cost factors that I was just describing in terms of the continuum of care. So that you're going to see more and more like what I would call post-acute care coordination.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of opportunities out there with these baby boomers coming of age to invest in this market. And if you haven't visited their site, go to NIC.org. There's a lot of great information that's just available for all site visitors to check out there and check out the organization there and what they're doing and their mission statement. And Beth, we certainly appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye now.
All right, thank you. And be sure that you don't miss a show of special interest to you. We have some great shows coming up, including next week we'll have a show on student housing. So visit commercialrealestateshow.com and sign up for once a week email announcing the show topic. We'll stay tuned. We'll have more on the senior housing industry. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty Commercial Advisors, a great place to do business. Visit bullrealty.com. RealNex, a comprehensive and powerful suite of commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low price. Visit realnex.com. That's REALNEX. Xceligent, the resource professionals use for commercial real estate information. Visit xceligent.com. That's XCELIGENT. Commercial Search, the source to market and source available properties for sale or lease. Visit commercialsearch.com. For more information on these great companies or for additional videos, podcasts, or articles, visit CREshow.com.